the wind finds every gap, each gust driving a fine dust of snow through the cracks and seams. The jug on the table is rimmed with ice. The water inside has turned solid. A single coal fire burning low throws little warmth. The room is dim, the air so cold that breath hangs in pale clouds above the blankets. Mother and child draw closer, layers of shawls and coats pulled tight, but the chill seeps through everything. Coal is precious, only a few lumps left in the scuttle. Each piece must last. She hesitates before feeding the fire, knowing what remains must see them through the night. The silence is heavy, broken only by the pop of a cinder and the distant groan of the wind. In some houses, the frost creeps along the walls, painting them with white. The kitchen floor is dusted with snow that has slipped in around the doorframe. Outside, the snow piles higher, pressing against the door, making it harder to open with every hour. Inside, the family waits, watching the last embers glow, listening to the storm's slow siege. Every breath is a reminder of how thin the barrier is between warmth and the world of ice beyond. A decision must be made. The last of the bread is gone, and the coal scuttle is nearly empty. Wind rattles the window panes. Someone stands at the door, scarf wrapped high, boots pulled on with stiff fingers. It's not courage that sends them out. It is hunger and need, a duty that cannot wait for the weather to pass. The handle is cold as iron. When the door opens, the blizzard surges in, swirling snow across the floor, stinging faces, making the hallway vanish in a haze of white. The family inside watches as the figure steps out, coat flapping, head bowed against the gale. The door is forced shut once more. Snow already piles in the corners, driven by the wind through every crack. Within minutes, the threshold is rimmed with drifts. Each gust heaps more against the wood, packing it tight inch by inch. Inside, the silence grows heavier. The fire burns lower. The outline of boots fades from the step, lost beneath the rising snow. Soon, the door will not open at all. The storm presses in, sealing the house from the world, leaving those within to wait and wonder if the one who left will ever return. Lanes disappear beneath a white plain. Where hedges once marked the edge of the road, there is only a smooth, drifting surface. No shapes, no shadows, just the rise and fall of snow against the sky. Paths that led from cottage to village vanish overnight, buried so deeply that a person could walk above where fences and shrubs once stood. Doors that opened easily yesterday are now pressed tight by drifts, the wood bowing inward beneath the weight. A villager stands in the half-light of morning, peering through frost-laced glass at a world that no longer resembles the one they knew. The lane beyond the gate is gone, erased by the storm. Footsteps fade within a few yards, lost to the wind and the endless white. No post arrives. The usual clatter of the mail cart is missing, its route swallowed by snow. News from the next parish, from the world beyond, is cut off. Even the sound of distant voices is absent. No one calls. No one passes along the lane. The silence is not peaceful. It is a kind of waiting. In the village, windows glow faintly behind curtains drawn tight. Outside, the only movement comes from the wind, shaping the snow into silent walls. Hedges, once a living boundary, are hidden under drifts so deep that children could walk atop them without ever touching a branch. Inside each house, people listen for any sign that the world is stirring, that help or news might break through. But the storm has sealed them in. Each home an island, each family watching as the last traces of the familiar disappear beneath snow that shows no sign of stopping. The waiting stretches on. The tracks vanish beneath a white, unbroken field. Where rails once gleamed, there is only a shallow dip in the snow, barely a memory of movement. Telegraph poles lean at odd angles, wires snapped and trailing, their messages silenced mid-sentence. Along one line, a passenger train sits stranded, its carriages half buried, windows crusted with frost, doors frozen shut. Inside, a single lantern glows in the dark, painting tired faces with a thin yellow light. The heat from the stove is no match for the cold that seeps through every seam. Passengers huddle together, coats pulled tight, breath clouding the glass. Outside, the storm howls, piling snow against the wheels, sealing the train in place as surely as any house. No word comes from the city. No relief train arrives. The telegraph wires that once carried news and hope now hang useless, heavy with ice. By morning, the train is just another shape beneath the drifts. Some lines have been abandoned entirely, engines left to freeze where they stopped. Across the countryside, railways and roads are erased at once, cutting off villages, farms, and towns alike. The world beyond becomes unreachable, not by distance, but by the weight of snow and the silence of broken wires. Inside the carriage, the lantern burns low, and the night seems endless. Every hour, the cold presses closer. Rescue will not come soon. The storm has made an island of every place, and every person waits for morning, not knowing if it will bring help or only more snow. A child stands by the door, listening for footsteps that never come. The handle is buried in snow, frozen in place. On the far side, wind scours the yard, erasing every trace. Inside, the elder stirs the ashes, eyes fixed on the drifted threshold. The bread basket sits empty. Hours pass. The fire burns lower. Still, the door does not open. Somewhere beyond the white silence, a figure lies lost in the storm, like the woman in the parish book who set out for bread and was found the next morning, frozen in a drift. In this house, waiting stretches on, heavy as the snow pressing against the walls. The world narrows to hope and absence. Each day, the door stays shut. No voice calls from the lane. Only the wind answers, carrying nothing back. In the parish book, a single entry records a name and a date. No one speaks above a whisper when the notice is read. Behind closed doors, families count the places at their tables, the empty chair by the hearth. The village moves quietly, measuring loss not in numbers, but in the hush that follows each question left unanswered. A woman went out for bread and did not return. The next morning, she was found in the drift. Her absence was written in the silence that settles over her home. The snow outside softens every sound, but inside the quiet is sharper. The storm has taken more than warmth. It has left a space that words cannot fill. Even now, a sudden storm can still silence roads, homes, entire towns. The lessons of 1881, our dependence, our vulnerability, have not melted away. As weather grows more unpredictable, resilience depends not just on infrastructure, but on each other. Some stories linger in the quiet after the thaw. Thank you for watching.
December 1962. Britain slipped into a chill deeper than most could imagine as an eerie calm masked a deadly atmospheric blockade settling overhead. By Boxing Day, unnatural silence turned to chaos. A train slammed into disaster near Copenhagen, killing 18 as temperatures dropped below -22 degrees. How could a nation be brought to its knees by the big freeze? The answer begins with a single catastrophic breakdown. A dome of high pressure anchored itself over Scandinavia on December 22, 1962, setting off a chain reaction that would lock Britain in Arctic cold for over 2 months. The Met Office, tracking synoptic charts by hand, watched as Atlantic storms veered north, unable to break through the wall of still air. Instead of the usual procession of mild, damp westerlies, a relentless flow of easterly winds swept across the North Sea, drawing bitter air from Siberia and the Arctic straight into the British Isles. Temperatures plummeted night after night, reaching -22.2 degrees Celsius at Braemar in Scotland by January 18th. With the jet stream displaced far to the south, the Atlantic's warmth was shut out. Each weather front that reached Britain stalled and died, shedding its moisture as snow. The snow did not melt. There was no thaw, only a slow accumulation as the ground froze hard beneath a deepening white crust. From late December until early March, much of England and Wales saw snow cover that never lifted. In Reading, snow lay on the ground for 38 days, 5 times the modern average. Across the South and Midlands, rivers and canals froze, and in some coastal towns, even seawater turned to ice. The Met Office climatologists would later rank this winter among the 3 coldest since records began in 1659, surpassed only by the winters of 1683 to 1684 and 1739 to 1740. The block's persistence was extraordinary. From December 22 until the first week of March, Britain remained under the grip of this atmospheric stalemate. Each clear night, radiative cooling over snowfields sent temperatures lower still, compounding the freeze. This atmospheric blockade did more than bring cold. It strained every part of the country's infrastructure, from railways to power lines, and set the stage for cascading disruptions that would touch every corner of daily life. Boxing Day, 1962. Temperatures stayed well below freezing as darkness crept over the rail lines north of Crewe. At Winsford, the Liverpool to Birmingham train, led by an electric locomotive, ground to a stop at signal 114. The driver stepped out into the biting cold, breath hanging in the air, and reached for the lineside phone to call Coppenhall Junction. The signalman's answer was grim. Points ahead were frozen, congestion was mounting, and no trains could move until the blockage cleared. Inside, nearly 300 passengers waited, coats pulled tight, unaware that another express was drawing closer from behind. The midday Scot, running from Glasgow to London with 13 coaches and over 500 people aboard, approached the same stretch. Its driver, Russell, halted behind the Birmingham train at a red signal. Regulations required him to contact the signalman before moving. He tried the signal telephone, but the line was dead. All upline phones had failed minutes earlier, likely frozen or shorted by ice. With no way to communicate and pressure to keep the schedule, Russell invoked the emergency stop and proceed rule, meant for rare situations and only with extreme caution. He moved forward, but not at the slow crawl the rule demanded. Ahead, signal 110 switched from red to yellow, cleared for the Birmingham train, which had just begun to move. Russell saw the yellow aspect and, misreading it as permission to accelerate, picked up speed. In the darkness and blowing snow, the rear of the Birmingham train appeared suddenly, a black mass looming out of the night. There was barely time to brake. At 6:01 in the evening, the midday Scot crashed into the rear coaches at 15 to 20 miles per hour. The impact shattered couplings and telescoped coaches. 18 passengers died instantly or within minutes. Dozens more were injured. Circuit breakers tripped, alerting signalmen. In the freezing night, a nearby farm shed became a makeshift mortuary. The Ministry of Transport inquiry would later reveal a chain of frozen points, failed phones, and human judgment stretched to breaking. On the uplands of Dartmoor, the cold was more than an inconvenience, and it was a matter of life and death. In the days following the blizzard of December 29th and 30th, snowdrifts reached 6 meters, swallowing stone walls and barns, turning familiar lanes into blank, impassable corridors. Villages vanished behind white barricades. Roads and footpaths disappeared. Farmhouses that had stood for centuries became islands in a frozen sea. For the farmers, the silence was not peaceful. It was the sound of animals trapped beyond reach, herds and flocks scattered across fields now buried under snow. On Dartmoor alone, 6,000 sheep and cattle went without food for 4 days, their hay and silage stores cut off by drifts too deep for any tractor or horse. By the second night, the only way to reach them was from the air. Royal Air Force helicopters, pressed into service by desperate calls from the Ministry of Agriculture, dropped bales of hay and sacks of feed into white fields. The pilots navigated by memory in the shape of hedgerows barely visible beneath the snow. Even so, many animals would not survive. When the thaw finally came, the scale of loss became clear, carcasses revealed in the melting drifts, a grim tally of a winter that offered no mercy. Farmers spoke of helplessness, of walking out each morning to see another dozen sheep lost, or a barn roof collapsed under the weight of ice. Some families burned their last coal in kitchens colder than the outdoors, rationing food and paraffin, waiting for a snowplow or a passing military convoy. In the uplands, isolation was measured not just in miles, but in days without news, weeks without mail, and the growing certainty that help might not arrive. Survival depended on neighbors sharing what little they had: fuel, food, a working radio. Relief sometimes came in the form of a single army lorry, headlights pale against the drifts, bringing bread, milk, or medicine to a village unseen for a fortnight. The hardships of the countryside often went uncounted, their scale hidden beneath the snow, but the toll on rural life was as real as any headline from the cities. By New Year's Eve, the freeze had pushed city life to the edge. Across Britain, 200 major roads and 25,000 miles of highways were blocked by snow or ice. Buses and lorries were abandoned at odd angles, engines frozen solid with only the scrape of shovels and the distant hum of a single snowplow breaking the silence. In Manchester, London, and Birmingham, household taps ran dry as water mains froze beneath the streets. For thousands, the only source of drinking water came from corporation carts trundling through neighborhoods, with families queuing in the cold for a few gallons at a time. Inside homes, the cold crept in. Ice formed on the inside of bedroom windows, and in some flats, water froze in the toilet cisterns. Coal deliveries, already stretched thin by blocked roads, began to fail. Households rationed the last lumps from scuttles, burning scraps of wood or even old furniture to keep a single room warm. Gas pressure dropped. Electricity flickered or cut out altogether in some districts, leaving families to huddle by candlelight and hope for a break in the weather. Milk rounds ground to a halt. Delivery vans could not get through side streets, and even when farmers managed to milk their cows, the bottling plants and dairies were paralyzed by transport failures. In some areas, milk spoiled or had to be dumped, while city children went without. Rubbish piled up on pavements, uncollected for weeks. Postal deliveries slowed to a crawl, and newspapers arrived days late or not at all. Municipal workers faced a losing battle. Crews dug out hydrants, thawed pipes with blow lamps, and tried to clear main roads, but the sheer scale of the freeze overwhelmed every effort. Public notices urged residents to conserve water and share coal. In council offices, emergency meetings stretched late into the night, searching for solutions as the city's basic systems buckled under the